Kneel. Bow to Sir Reginald's urn. Seraphina Thorne's venomous command pierced the oppressive silence of the opulent Thornwood estate. Her eyes, sharp as shards of ice, gleamed with malice as she surveyed the assembled Thorne family and their esteemed guests. The grand parlor, usually a sanctuary of hushed reverence, erupted in cruel, biting laughter. Aaliyah Vance, a brilliant black woman who had dared to marry into their golden lineage, stood unmoving, her elegant black dress a stark contrast to the ostentatious wealth surrounding her. She refused to humiliate herself before a dog's urn. Her quiet defiance, however, sparked a fire that would ultimately reshape an empire. 2 years prior, Aaliyah and her husband, Marcus Thorne, had exchanged heartfelt vows under a canopy of fairy lights in a Richmond garden. That day, they'd promised each other a life free from the judgmental gaze of Marcus's family. But now, a cryptic email from his grandfather, Mr. Elijah Thorne, had summoned them back, vaguely mentioning a family loss that hung heavy in the air. Aaliyah remembered her very first visit to the estate, the cold scorn she'd faced as a 28-year-old biotech innovator. She dared to love Marcus, their golden son. As they pulled up the winding drive, the butler, stiff in his black uniform, approached. His nod to Marcus was crisp, but his eyes slid past Aaliyah as if she were a shadow. "Mr. Brooks," he said, his voice clipped. "The family awaits inside." Marcus's hand, however, laced through Aaliyah's, his fingers a quiet act of defiance. "Lead the way," he said, his tone carrying an edge the butler couldn't miss. They entered the grand parlor, where an absurd spectacle awaited. A mahogany urn, dedicated to Seraphina's ancient common pet, Sir Reginald, sat on a velvet pedestal, flanked by orchids and silver candelabras. A portrait of the dog, droopy-jowled and dignified, stared out in oil. Programs titled Sir Reginald's Memorial Service were clutched by mourners whose faces were a study in contrived grief. The sight clawed at Aaliyah's heart. This wasn't a human loss, but a dog mourned with a pomp that could fund a hospital wing. Seraphina's voice, sharp and commanding, sliced through the mournful strains of the string quartet. "Bow to Sir Reginald's urn. Show respect." The staff, their faces etched with discomfort, mechanically obeyed, each bow a mirror to the humiliation Aaliyah felt herself. Seraphina's gaze snagged on Aaliyah, her lips curling into a smirk. "Oh, Marcus brought her," she said, the words dripping with disdain. A spark ignited the crowd's murmurs. "Her humble origins don't fit our mold," a cousin muttered loud enough to carry, drawing chuckles. Aaliyah stood tall, her pulse pounding in her ears, but her face remained a mask of serenity. She'd faced this before, but she'd come prepared. "I came from Marcus," she stated, her voice steady. "Not your approval." The words landed with quiet force, and for a moment, the room's laughter faltered. But Seraphina was a hunter. She stepped closer, her lace handkerchief clutched like a weapon. "Prove your respect," she hissed, gesturing to the urn. "Kneel. Bow to Sir Reginald." The demand hung in the air, a grotesque command that drew gasps, followed by a cruel chorus of laughter. "Kneel. Kneel." Seraphina chanted, her hands clapping, her eyes alight with malice. The mourners joined in, a tidal wave of humiliation designed to break her. Aaliyah's chest tightened, her breath catching as the weight of their cruelty pressed against her. She saw her mother's weary hands, the trembling maid's plight. This wasn't just absurdity, it was power wielded to crush. "I won't," Aaliyah declared, her voice ringing clear, slicing through the chants like a thunderclap. The room fell silent. "This isn't respect," Aaliyah continued, her eyes locked on Seraphina's, unyielding. "It's a charade." Seraphina's face twisted with outrage. "How dare you mock our grief? You're unfit for this family, Aaliyah. Always have been." The crowd seized the chance, their insults cascading. Mr. Elijah Thorne, seated at the room's head, remained stone-faced, his silence a stinging betrayal. Marcus, his jaw clenching, stepped in front of Aaliyah, his body a shield. "You've insulted my wife enough. We're done here." The finality in his tone silenced the crowd. They left the estate, the grandeur of Thornwood shrinking in the rear view. Aaliyah's heart pounded, not with defeat, but with a fierce, burning purpose. A blaze that would one day return, not to beg, but to conquer. 5 years later, in the bustling innovation hub of Harmony City, Aaliyah Vance had quietly forged her own empire. From a cramped, leased lab with flickering lights, she had poured her soul into Impact Innovations, a tech firm dedicated to affordable, AI-powered educational platforms for underserved communities. Her vision was audacious, to democratize access to knowledge. The world doubted her, calling her a black woman with no pedigree, scoffing at her unconventional vision. Rejections from venture capitalists piled up like stones, each one a test of her resolve. Marcus was her unwavering support, taking on pro bono legal cases to cover their bills. Their daughter, little Chloe, a joyful whirlwind of curls and curiosity, doubled their stakes and their purpose. Aaliyah's breakthrough came with a groundbreaking AI learning system that could personalize education for students with minimal resources. The prototype was her rebellion, a tangible defiance of every door slammed in her face. The tide turned at a global tech summit in Boston. Dr. Lina Khan, a billionaire philanthropist renowned for backing disruptive technologies, paused at Aaliyah's modest booth. Dr. Khan saw not just innovation, but real transformation. By day's end, a staggering $300 million investment was secured, catapulting Impact Innovations to a valuation of over $1 billion. News headlines hailed Aaliyah as a visionary, but for her, success wasn't the headlines, it was the rural communities accessing her tools, the children whose lives were transformed. The year was 2025. The Thorne family's legacy business, Thorne Global Industries, was crumbling, ravaged by outdated practices and unforeseen market shifts. Their once pristine Thornwood estate now showed distinct signs of decay. Marcus and Aaliyah returned for a crucial crisis meeting. Beneath a veneer of silk canopies and crystal flutes, Serafina, her blonde curls dulled, her blue eyes still sharp with condescension, smirked. "Where's Aaliyah?" "Lost in Richmond traffic, no doubt." Just then, a sleek, electric SUV crested the estate's hill, its wings slicing the air as it descended onto a nearby strip with surgical precision. The crowd gasped, shielding their eyes as napkins scattered. Aaliyah Vance stepped out, radiant in a tailored sapphire suit that hugged her frame like a declaration of power, little Chloe by her side, her green dress pristine. "Sorry I'm late," Aaliyah said smoothly. Chloe wanted to see the learning hub first. The words landed like a thunderclap, her presence rewriting the rules of their world. Aaliyah, the woman they'd called unfit, stood as a titan, her arrival a sledgehammer to their fading legacy. Marcus crossed the lawn, his pride a beacon, and took her hand. Little Chloe tugged Aaliyah's sleeve, whispering loudly, "Mommy, their hedges are dead now." The nervous laughter of the Thorne family was abruptly cut short. Serafina, her face pale, approached. Her smile was brittle, champagne flute clutched like a lifeline. "Aaliyah, darling," she said, her voice syrupy forced. "You've done well. We always knew you had potential." The lie hung heavy in the air. Aaliyah tilted her head, her gaze piercing. "Potential you dismissed at a dog's funeral, Serafina, or too humble for your mold." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Serafina's face flushed. "You did." Aaliyah continued, her voice final. "But I built Impact Innovations despite you." Mr. Elijah Thorne took the stage, his broad shoulders squared, but his voice strained. "Aaliyah Vance has invested $300 million to save Thorne Global Industries," he announced, his silver hair catching the light. "She's our lifeline." Marcus stepped forward, his voice clear. "Aaliyah is the visionary who pulled us through this crisis. Without her, we'd be bankrupt." Aaliyah stepped to the podium, her Impact Innovations pin glinting like a star. 5 years ago, I stood in this estate, invisible to most of you. She began, her voice steady, each word a stone laid with purpose. "You mourned a dog with more care than you showed me. You forced your staff to bow to its urn as if their dignity meant nothing. You called me unfit, demanded I kneel for your amusement." Her gaze swept the room, unyielding. "But that day taught me true value isn't wealth or control. It's what you build for others." Impact Innovations has empowered millions, rural schools accessing AI-powered learning, communities transformed by accessible knowledge. That's value, not urns for dogs or estates built on exclusion. Applause erupted, some genuine, others forced. Serafina's face burned, her eyes fixed on the ground. Mr. Elijah coughed, his bravado gone, while cousins whispered of stock losses and fading legacies. Later, as the crowd thinned, Serafina tried a final, desperate gambit. Kneeling to little Chloe, with a forced, saccharine smile, she offered, "Sweetie, wouldn't you love a pony ride?" Chloe tilted her head, her curls bouncing. "No thanks," she said, her voice clear. "I'm helping Mommy build a global learning hub." Natalie's smile collapsed, her status reduced to a footnote. Mr. Elijah lingered nearby, his voice low as he spoke to a cousin. "We misjudged her completely," he admitted, his empire's fate now firmly in Aaliyah's hands. The moment was shattered by a butler, pale-faced, a sealed envelope in hand. "Mr. Thorne's will," he said, handing it to Mr. Elijah. The patriarch's hands trembled as he opened it, his eyes scanning the page, his breath catching. Mr. Elijah's voice cracked as he read aloud. "The Thorne Empire Company estate, all passes to Aaliyah and Marcus Thorne to protect our legacy." A collective gasp swept the tent. Serafina's scream pierced the stunned silence, her champagne glass shattering on the ground. "No!" she cried, her face a mask of fury, her schemes undone. Aaliyah stood unmoved, little Chloe on her hip, Marcus at her side, their unity a fortress. Mr. Elijah's eyes met hers, a flicker of raw respect cutting through his defeat. "You've earned it," he whispered, turning away, a titan humbled. The tense chandeliers flickered, casting shadows on faces that no longer dared to sneer. Aaliyah's gaze drifted to the horizon, Harmony City's skyline, a distant promise of dreams made real. She had come not to beg, but to claim her rightful place. The evening waned, the last rays of twilight painting the now patchy lawns. Aaliyah and Marcus prepared to leave the Thornwood estate, not as scorned visitors, but as its new rightful stewards. Their new reality, where purpose and impact reigned over hollow grandeur, had firmly begun. The Thorne family, for the first time, truly saw the immense weight of Aaliyah's worth. Her legacy, etched in millions of lives transformed by impact innovations, was a beacon of true value, built not on their approval, but on her unwavering determination and the profound impact she had created in the world.